Intellia Therapeutics is the only CRISPR stock that didn't fall from all-time high in January by 35 to 60%. And now it's sitting at around $78 per share, which is close to all-time high. Does it mean that Intellia Therapeutics is the best CRISPR stock? Let's find out. Hello everyone, my name is Marat. I'm a PhD student in medicinal chemistry, and today we continue our journey in CRISPR companies. And today we are going to discuss Intellia Therapeutics. But before we start, I just want to remind you that this is not financial advice and I'm just sharing my opinion as I would share it with my friends. If you don't know what CRISPR is, in short, this is the best technology available right now for gene editing. And gene editing can be applied for medicine to cure some incurable diseases. So today's video is about Intellia Therapeutics. We'll look into their founders, their pipeline, their partners, their current leadership, analyst prediction for share price, and at the end I will give my opinion about Intellia Therapeutics. And I hope that this video will make it easier for you to decide if this is a good investment or not. Intellia Therapeutics was founded back in 2014, and among others, it was founded by Jennifer Doudna and one more notable person, Luciano Marafini. So if you watched my previous video about patents, but if you didn't, you can check this out. So basically this was collaborator with Feng Zhang, and Feng Zhang is the founder of Editas and Beam Therapeutics. And what happens there, that in spite of their collaboration, Feng Zhang didn't include Luciano in the patent application. And at the end, Luciano ended up working for their rival, Intellia Therapeutics. And I find this funny because it's kind of another red flag for Editas and a little bit for Beam as well, because when you have this kind of situation when you even abandon your collaborators and file patents without them and they ended up working for your competitor, it's not looking good. So let's put drama aside and look at their pipeline. So you can see that they have several drugs in vivo category and one of them in clinical trials. And then if you scroll down, you have also ex vivo drug candidates and also one of them in clinical trials. So let's talk about this ex vivo first. If we open clinical trials page for this sickle cell disease treatment, you can see that actual start date for this clinical trial was in August 2020, and it's 2 years after CRISPR Therapeutics started working on exactly the same medicine against exactly the same disease. And why I'm saying exactly the same medicine? Because if you look at their target, so they target to disrupt this gene BCL11A. And when we look at the CTX001, you can see that they target exactly the same gene BCL11A. So it's kind of good news and bad news at the same time. So good news, it means that most likely it's gonna work, and if CRISPR Therapeutics will get approval, Intellia Therapeutics eventually will get approval as well, because it's same technology, same target, and I would be surprised to see if it will be different outcome, but we have to wait for clinical trials. But the bad news that it will take additional 1 or 2 years after CRISPR Therapeutics approval to actually see Intellia Therapeutics drug on the market. This is why I believe that another drug candidate is more important for Intellia at this stage, and this drug being NTLA 2001. And as you can see, it's targeting amyloidosis, but we'll talk about this disease later. And why it's important? Because nobody else is working towards curing this disease right now. And if Intellia Therapeutics will be able to deliver this drug to a market and get FDA approval, they will be basically just dominating without any competition at all. And if we click on learn more about this disease, you can see that it's quite common, 50,000 and 200 and up to 500,000 with these two different types of this disease. And let's talk briefly about what this disease is all about. So it's basically just a genetic disorder, or even could be not genetic disorder, but basically some proteins are undigestible because they misfolded and body keep accumulating them. And this can result in quite bad outcomes. And as you can see that average life expectancy after diagnosis is 2 to 15 years, which is definitely a very short period of time. And what's good about this drug candidate that it's actually focused on rich nations like USA, countries of European Union, Australia, Canada, etc. So what it means that compared to sickle cell disease, will be administered to people who are rich and most likely will be able to afford this disease. And the price tag for genetic drugs that are already on the market is between 350,000 and up to 2.1 million per dose. So, and I expect that NTLA 2001 will be also within this range. I guess it will be closer to the bottom of this range, but still it will be very expensive. And because it's focused on the rich countries, I imagine that if they will get FDA approval, they will be able to generate enough money to cover further expenses and expand pipeline and basically develop more products. And as a result, hopefully bringing the cost down eventually. Also, I have to mention that NTLA 2001 will be an in vivo drug, and they will be using lipid nanoparticles as a drug delivery vehicle. And it's exactly the same delivery mechanism as Moderna and Pfizer was using for their vaccine. Now let's have a look at the clinical trials page for NTLA 2001. We can see that actual start date is listed on November 5th, 2020. So it's not that long ago, but they promised to publish initial clinical trials data sometime during this year. I guess it will be closer to the end of the year to see if the drug is at least safe and maybe it's also improving health of these patients. And I'm optimistic about these clinical trials because before starting clinical trials, Intellia Therapeutics published outcome of their study in non-human primates that basically showing that this drug is effective in quite related species to us. And this is very good sign, and I believe that it's increased likelihood of this drug to be successful. So the last piece of news about NTLA 2001 that I want to bring to your attention is that they recently received orphan drug status from European Union, which should speed up the clinical trials process in a way that they need less data to get approval for this drug to be on the market. Then if you're going back to Intellia pipeline, you can see that they have another drug candidate NTLA 2002 in IND enabling stage, which means they're about to submit documents to FDA to get approval to start clinical trials. So, and they claiming that they will be ready to submit these documents somewhere in the second half of this year, and I guess then they will be able to start clinical trials early next year in 2022. And similar story is about NTLA 5001. They also in the same stage, and as you can see here is that they are planning to submit these documents in the middle of 2021. And if it's fast enough and FDA will give them clearance quite fast, they may start clinical trials even at the end of this year. And all of this news about starting new clinical trials can move shares quite a bit. Now let's talk about partners of Intellia Therapeutics. And we'll start with the biggest partner of all, Novartis. And Novartis is one of the largest companies in the world in pharma space. And I guess it's the third largest by capitalization. And remember I mentioned these medicines that cost 2.1 million. So Novartis is selling this drug, just to give you an idea how big they are and what they're doing. So, and they actually provided some initial funds for Intellia Therapeutics to start back in 2014, and that was kind of initial agreement between them. So, and you can read it in the description. I will leave link about partnership in more details, but basically we'll move on to the second partner, Regeneron. And Regeneron is more interesting from the point of view that NTLA 2001 is in partnership with Regeneron. And as I said, this drug will be crucial for success of Intellia in the future. And Regeneron is also not a small company. It's a well-established pharma company that will provide some expertise for Intellia with handling this, marketing and just delivering drug to a market if it will get FDA approval. And recently, in June 2020, Regeneron and Intellia expanded their relationships. So basically, Regeneron is very confident in their relationships with Intellia and they're willing to pay more money upfront for future gains from their drugs. One more news that I didn't share with you yet about Intellia Therapeutics, and I guess it's a big news that definitely helps them to keep share price up, that they have base editor capabilities. And on March of 2021, they announced that they will be a second company after Beam Therapeutics to have these capabilities. And they're using some proprietary mechanism that is basically not connected to Beam Therapeutics technology. And I believe it's very interesting to see more details about this base editing, because it's kind of hard to imagine how they were able to invent something completely new that is not going to be covered by patent from Beam Therapeutics. Now let's talk briefly about leadership of Intellia Therapeutics, and I just want to highlight two people here, CEO and Chief Scientific Officer. And we'll start with CEO, and you can see that his name is John Leonard, and he used to work in AbbVie and many other pharma companies. So let's scroll down to his education first. So you can see that he was in Johns Hopkins University, which is very prestigious university for medical degree, also Stanford. I guess no need to explain Stanford. So it all seems to be solid from his educational point of view, and then we'll move on to see what his experience is all about. So he was working at AbbVie for a long time, and as you can see that he actually specifies that he had similar positions since 2006. He used to work at same company for 21 years, and I guess that's kind of commitment. And then after this, he basically just transitioned to board members, so he pretty much kind of retired, and then he started his position in Intellia 7 years ago. So he joined Intellia since the foundation, which is kind of good to see, and initially he was just a board member and playing some other roles, but since January 2018 he is the president and CEO of this company. So it's good to see that he's been around basically since the initial times when it was just founded in 2014. So I really like when this CEO is not just stranger to a company, but actually somebody who was here from the very beginning. Now let's have a look at the Chief Scientific Officer at Intellia Therapeutics. So we'll have a look at her degree first. So you can see that she finished Buenos Aires University initially, and then she moved for her PhD work in the New York University, which is kind of prestigious university, maybe not as cool as Stanford or Harvard, but still it's a reputable university. And let's have a look at the experience, because this is what I like about her experience the most, that she used to work at Merck for 14 years. 14 years, it's also, quite a commitment. So I really like to see people committed to one job, for extended period of time. And what's special about this position is that she used to work with RNA, and RNA is key component of CRISPR. It's basically the main ingredient of CRISPR. It's kind of very important, and you can see that she used to work in this field during the time when CRISPR was discovered. So she's definitely familiar with this CRISPR from the very beginning, and it's good to see. And after she was just, doing some consults work and being member of boards as well. So she kind of retired from her work. But then in May 2019, she joined Intellia Therapeutics to become Chief Scientific Officer. So, and from my perspective, this is a great fit because she has a lot of experience with RNA, and RNA is key for CRISPR. So let's have a look now at financials of Intellia Therapeutics. So if we'll take into account current assets and subtract current liabilities, we can see that they have around 450 millions in cash sitting right now. And if we'll jump to income statement, you can see that operating expenses for 2020 were around 194 millions. So if we can round up it to 200 millions. So which means that at this pace, if they will keep spending 200 millions a year, it will be enough money for them to survive next 2 years. However, since they're going to start clinical trials early next year or sometime later this year for additional drug candidates, it will definitely require more money. Now let's move on to the share price prediction from Analyst in the next 12 months. So as you can see that basically average of Analyst prediction is around $81, which is very close to what they have right now in terms of price. It's only 4% of upside. So while this kind of doesn't seem to be exciting in terms of that most analysts saying that it's already a fair value for the share price, I believe if they will announce additional clinical trials data and if they will start clinical trials for another drug candidates, or even if their competitors, CRISPR Therapeutics, will get some good results from their clinical trials, or they will get approval, it's all can be a good catalyst for share price to go up, because even success of competitor can mean that this technology is working, and because there is no CRISPR medicine registered right now, first registered medicine will be a huge catalyst for all these 4 companies. Overall, Intellia Therapeutics is a very strong player in the CRISPR field, and their recent announcement of base editing technology is only intensifying my confidence in this company. And they have strong pipeline, and they have a great scientist, and also they were founded by one of inventors of CRISPR technology itself. So it's all kind of lined up, but compared to other companies, they're not priced as a discount right now. So it's kind of hard to see where this share price will be moving in the short term, but long term I believe this will be a winner. And main catalyst that we all should be looking for if we invested in this company is announcement of this clinical trial data for NTLA 2001 later this year. Because if this data is good, share price can explode. But if it's not good, you know what happened. It can go down a lot. I mean a lot, like 50% down, because normally on this kind of news, people overreact. And if you see this kind of decline on the bad news in CRISPR field, normally it's a buying opportunity, because you have to look deeper into pipeline and see that they have not just one single drug, and they have great partners like Novartis and Regeneron that helping them to deliver these drugs to our market. So what do you think about Intellia Therapeutics after all? Are you invested in this company, or are you planning to open position? Write in the comments down below and we'll have a chat about it. And if something is not clear in my video also, don't hesitate to ask. So, and next video will be about comparison of all 4 CRISPR companies. So stay tuned and I'll see you in the next one.